don't know the politics of where she's at in Uganda, but I know that, you know, we see on the news often that, you know, horrible things are happening to Christians in Africa now. Whether that's close to you or not, I can't say, but you know, we certainly, regardless of what we do, need to keep her and her ministry in our prayers. Amen. And so today, I wanted to speak just for a few minutes. And initially, you know, when I was thinking about today, I said, let's just let Robin do the whole message. And I was selfish. I just got to be saying I was selfish. And you know what? And I didn't even know what I was going to talk about. I didn't have, but as some of you know, I read, in addition to studying every week, I read through the Bible each year. I have been doing that since the 1990s. And on Friday morning, my Old Testament reading was from the book of Proverbs, and it was chapter 14. And verse 2 jumped out at me in light of the events that we've seen in our nation. And it says, Proverbs 14:2 says, "He who walks in his uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is perverse in his ways despises him." The New Living Translation, NLT, puts it like this: "Those who follow the right path fear the Lord. Those who take the wrong path despise him." Two paths. We've got one choice. And again, it's amazing how Sunday school ties into the message. Every week, we don't talk about, and I don't see, what's he doing today? You know, and it always does. And then, for the very verses we did this morning, you know, Robin used them today, and what she has to say. The Spirit of the Lord is moving in our church. I'm just telling you it is. So, but you know, as we all know, life is a journey. And every step we take, we're on one of two paths. We're on the path of uprightness, where it says, "He who follows the right path fears the Lord," or you're on the other path. And on that other path, those people despise him. That's what Proverbs tells us there. So the right path is marked by reverence and respect and love for God. The wrong path is marked by contempt for God. Proverbs 14:2 is just not something Solomon wrote, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 or 3,000 years ago, whatever. It's not just beautiful poetry that flows off our lips when we read it in the King James Version. It's a mirror that we can hold up to our culture today. And if we're honest with ourselves, we live in a time where contempt for God is not only common, we see it celebrated. And despising God is a choice, a heart choice that people make. Now, I may be going deeper into this than I should today, but as I dug deep into the scriptures, the Hebrew word for despise is booze, which sounds but that word, it means to treat as worthless, to hold in contempt. It's not always just loud rebellion like in the movie Cool Hand Luke, where he's standing there shaking his fist at God. Sometimes it's just quiet dismissal. I don't have anything to do with it. I don't believe. They live as if God's ways just don't matter. And to them, they don't matter. Despising God is not just about rejecting the existence of God. It goes deeper than that. It rejects the authority of God. And when we reject the authority of God, we end up rejecting His image in others. And that's where violence begins, folks. Violence doesn't start with somebody putting a weapon in their hand. In fact, a weapon's just a tool. You know, it can be used for good or bad. Just like this TV can be used for good or bad. You know, you say, well, guns. Well, if you didn't have guns, the girl on the train or the bus was stabbed with a knife. Right. And we saw on New Year's Day there in New Orleans, a person used a car. So again, violence doesn't start with the weapon. Amen. It starts in the heart. Yes, sir. It starts with a contempt in the heart. The wrong path that people take is a choice. It's a moral choice. In Hebrew, the word that's used there in the NLT, the wrong path, is lose, which rhymes with booze. But it means to turn aside deliberately. It's a deliberate choice. It's not an accidental wrong turn. A few years ago, we were going to Texas, and Kim was driving, and we were going through Memphis. Well, we got off the interstate, and we were going through Memphis. Yeah. And that wasn't a deliberate mistake. That wasn't a deliberate choice. But people who reject God, it's a deliberate choice, a deliberate path that they take. It's a chosen direction. And when our culture takes that path, when it starts to redefine what's right and wrong, violence becomes entertainment. Vengeance becomes a virtue. And mercy becomes weakness. We've seen it in the headlines. It was horrible what happened last week. And I'm like President Trump. I didn't watch the video. I don't want to watch the video. Some of y'all may have, but I don't need to see that. I know what happened. But it's not only the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the attack on that church school in Minnesota, where the man wrote on the bullets, this is for the children. He put either a 2x4 through the bars on the door, so his intent was to trap them in that building and kill them. Now, he did kill 2, but thank God the others survived. But still, that was a choice, deliberate, what he wanted to do. Contempt for those kids. Contempt for God. The attack on the girl on the bus in Charlotte, she's just sitting there. And he gets on and stabs her. That was his choice to do that. A man had been let out of prison or jail 13 or 14 times and goes out and kills that girl who's just minding her own business. Could have been any one of us sitting on that bus. Any one of us. Then, of course, what we saw last week when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. Regardless of where you stand politically, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. Here was a man that was made in the image of God, just like we are. Chosen. He was gunned down because somebody decided disagreeing with him justified destroying him. And that's wrong. That's not just political hostility. That's spiritual contempt. That's contempt for life. It's Proverbs 14:2 in living color. We saw it displayed. Somebody who holds contempt. So violence is the fruit of contempt. And I did some research through the Library at Liberty University on Proverbs 14:2, and I won't list the names of my sources because they probably wouldn't stand out to you, but if you want them, I'll get them for you. The point is, when people despise God, they see destructive behavior is okay. I can destroy it. When God's authority is dismissed, human dignity becomes negotiable. Contempt for God often escalates from initially verbal mockery, you believe in God, or making fun of. It goes from that to social hostility, like we had last week, where it said, such as this, they're not even a human, we're not human, those Christians. And it escalates to physical violence. And we've seen it not only in our nation, but as I was pointing out, we've seen it in Africa, where they're attacking Christians and killing them in their churches. Horrible. We've watched this happen through our own time. Again, going down that wrong path, it didn't start with pulling that trigger. It began with the view that God's ways don't matter. That's where that starts with, and neither do the people that are made in his image. Jesus told us about this in John chapter 3, and I'm going to read from verses 17 through 21. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light, and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. So today, doing the right thing or taking the right path, it goes against really what we see in many ways in the culture. You see, the right path, and in the translation, the Hebrew word is yashar. It's not just being politically correct or morally correct. It's our relationship. It's our loyal relationship with God our Father. It's walking in awe of Him. It's walking in fear of Him. And fear doesn't mean, oh, I'm scared of God. It means I respect Him. That's what that means, the fear of God. I'm in awe of God. It means that even when the culture mocks us for believing, even this world that glorifies rage against God, our respect of God, our fear of God, in a sense, is an act of resistance to what the world is doing. We refuse to mirror the contempt that we see around us. We choose peace over provocation. We choose dignity of human life, all human life, Amen, over degradation or destroying human life. We choose life over death. So, and I know I'm talking to the choir this morning, even though there's only 7 in it. Which path are you on? Proverbs 14:2 is not a riddle that's put in the Bible. It's a choice. It's a choice that we all make. Every conversation, every post that we do online, every reaction we have is a step on one of these two paths. We're following God or we're not following God. I chose this image, contempt toward God, not because he's got a hoodie on. In the winter, I wear a hoodie when I'm outside because my ears get cold. But look at the face, it's anger in there. And I tell you what we see is there's so much anger in these people who do these horrible acts. Anger. What are they angry at? They're angry at the world. They're taking out on Charlie Kirk because he's saying that what he believes to be truth. He's standing up for it. But here was a man who said, if you disagree with me, you go to the front of the line to talk to me. But yet, this person didn't try to talk to him. He shot and killed him in a horrible, horrible thing. So, despising God doesn't always look like somebody's shaking their fist at heaven. Sometimes it's just a shrug. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's just a dismissal of God. But if it's left unchecked, that contempt toward God can grow into a culture where we see it, where life is seen as cheap. That's where we see somebody attack innocent children at a school, like in Minnesota just this last week in Colorado. Or the attack on that girl on the bus, or the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They're all just reminders when a society despises God, and there's a group of people in our society who do, folks.
That's right. Amen.
They despise people too. So, what do we do? What do we do? What can we do as Christians? You know, Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 6, I'm going to read from verses 10 through 13. He says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. That's what he tells us to do. Put on that armor. And if all we can do is stand, well, then you're doing something. Because it says, put on that armor, that's your protection, and that we should be able to stand. So we can choose that right path. We can walk in the fear of the Lord and give him the respect that he's due, not just for our sake, but for the sake of a world that desperately needs to see the reverence for God is the only road that leads to life. You know, and what we are seeing, even though I'm painting a dark picture here, and it certainly is a dark picture. There's an element of society that's dark. But on the other hand, especially among our youth, we're starting to see a revival in this nation where kids are coming, and particularly young men, which is very exciting and encouraging, where they're accepting Christ and they want to live for the Lord. I was just reading this week that in England, where since World War II, church attendance has been declining, it's starting to pick up. You know, people are going back to church. They're seeking God. And I believe that even these people who are evil, they're seeking something. They don't know what it is that they're seeking.
Amen.
As Christians, if we can, regardless of what happens, like Charlie Kirk, you know, he stood for what he believed. He's out there, you know, loving Jesus. You know, we have to know that no matter what happens, we've got to stand. And if all else, stand.
Amen.
Amen. Let's go to the Lord in prayer this